What did I get myself into? Part 4. Hi everybody, Volleyball Mom here. So we left off at the end of high school season, 9th grade. Now we're in the summer of 9th grade. So at this point, we are doing strength and conditioning camps or doing rec leagues. The one thing that we just learned about was a volleyball club practice player. So what that is, they usually have one or two spots where these kids can practice alongside the team. So they're getting practice all throughout the season, basically. Now, this is a lesser fee. So usually for us, I think it was around $800 or $900 for the season. These practice players, they do not participate in games. They don't travel. They don't do anything. It's strictly practice. Keep in mind, if your child is a practice player, that they may not get as much practice towards the end of the season when it's really like game time, because this is where the coaches are really trying to own in the skills of the team and make sure they can play cohesively as a team. And as your kid may not be on that team, they may help with some shagging, some serving, some outside, sideline kind of thing. So keep that in mind. So my daughter was participating as a practice player for that season. And then we did rec leagues, we did the trainings and all that stuff. Not only that, but she did lots of volunteer work over the summer, assisting the schools in some camps that they did. Whatever the coach needed, my daughter was there. She was definitely a reliable source for them to call on, and she was always there. So here we go, 10th grade tryouts. We go through this 3-day grueling experience again, where every day we have to wait to see if they, get cut. She makes it past the first day, past the second day. So now we're on 3rd day waiting. She comes out, her face is a little contorted, and she's looking at me and she says, "I didn't make it." And I'm looking at her because her face is all twisted, and I'm just like thinking she's joking, and I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, stop joking." And she looks at me again and she said, "No, I didn't make it." And she starts crying, and my heart sank because this was my worst fear. Not only did she not make the team, but I also thought she was joking, just based off of, I guess, what I didn't realize was her trying to hold it together. So here we are. I wish I could tell you why she didn't make the team. My guess is, one, that they were still looking at her as a setter. Again, we had not been working on setting anymore after that. We really wanted to go back to the DS libero role. And 2, she didn't really have many stats. Now, one thing to note is that the schools will use the girls' previous stats from the year before in conjunction with whether or not they're going to make a team. And with my daughter being benched for the majority of the season, obviously she's not going to have any stats. Not only that, but every time she made a mistake, she got taken out. So if she has stats, they're probably not very good. So long story short, we did not make the team, but my daughter did not let that stop her. Okay, so what do we do now? We're not on the team. This is the year that we decided we're going to join a club. Obviously, we did the practice player before, but now we thought it would be time to step it up and actually participate in the club. So my daughter tried out for a club that's local to us, and lo and behold, she made it. And not only did she make the club, but she made it as a libero. So now we start our libero club journey. Now a libero on a club team. There's a couple things I want to mention here, especially starting a club so late. One is, you have to understand that a lot of the girls, they grow up with their team, which means they typically stay and grow with the team that they're in. So positions can be very limited, especially the later you go into the club. Coaches prefer familiarity over everything. That, and then of course they have their favorites. I mean, We can talk about this all day long, but the coaches are going to have their favorites, and they're going to have the players they're familiar with. They know what they've invested into these players. They know what they can get out of these players. They know what they can't get out of these players. So coming into a club very late can make it very challenging to get put on a team, or even in the position that you feel like your child should be in, because there could already be somebody there occupying that spot. Or even if they're not better than your child, the fact that they've just been there longer already kind of solidifies their spot, unless they do something crazy to upset the coach or get on the coach's bad side or consistently mess up. A coach is typically, from what I've seen, going to stick with what they know and what they're comfortable with. So we got very lucky that coming into my daughter's position, we did not face that problem, and she was able to be embraced in her position. So my daughter's first year of club was absolutely amazing. I cannot sing the praises of these coaches high enough. She fell in love with the game again and redeveloped her love after everything. And these coaches, the passion they show, the dedication to mentorship and growth was just amazing to see. A few things to know about club volleyball. Your fees for club volleyball sometimes can typically range from anywhere from $1,800 to $4,500. So it is quite an expense. Definitely do your research. This does not include lodging. So wherever you're going, wherever you're traveling, if you're having to stay overnight, you have to pay for those hotels. You also have to get the transportation to get to those places. So the fees that you have to pay to get to where you're going. Keep in mind, the hotels know that you're coming, so these prices are marked up, which means you're going to be paying $100 to $200 a night in these places just to have lodging. Now, I wish I could tell you, oh, if you have family there, just stay there, but some of these tournaments are stay to play. What that means is that in order for your team to be able to compete in this tournament, from what I understand, 80% of your team has to be in a stay-to-play hotel, which means you have to be in the marked-up hotel, or else your team will get disqualified. So, let's talk about some of the other expenses you will encounter during club volleyball. One is your food. You're going to be in these tournament halls sometimes for hours. I mean, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. and you won't be able to go nowhere to eat. So you're either bringing food with you, which they don't like you to do, obviously, you sneak that in, or you're eating from their kiosk where a hot dog can cost you as much as $4 or $5. So food can get quite expensive. So planning ahead, making sure that you're packing your food, those kind of things can help alleviate some of that. Another thing that, we didn't really account for is when you're going to these bigger cities, you're paying for parking. You're paying for parking in hotels. You're paying for parking at the events. And then also you have to pay to see your child. That's funny, right? I know. Not only are you paying the fees for them to be able to play club, but you also have to pay to see them play. So sometimes that's $15, $20, $30 entry fee per person, so that you can see your child compete for that weekend. So those are some of the other things to be mindful of that are outside expenses. Now, I hope I didn't scare you with this. I know this is quite an expense. My husband and I, in our household, we've had many conversations and arguments even about these expenses and whether it's worth it, what's the end goal here, all these things. I mean, it is pricey. It's something that nobody talks about. And I just want to be completely transparent about, what this really is, You'll be happy to know that a lot of your clubs will do payment plans. You can go out and get grants. There are ways to try and collect money for these things, and some even have a work to play program where you can work for the fees. But talking to the clubs is going to be essential to find out what options you have for your player. Some even have scholarships available to give your child the opportunity to play. Don't let money be a deciding factor for whether or not they can go and play, because there's so many options, and the value of playing club, especially if they have a love for volleyball, not just because they're doing it just to do something, but if they have a love for volleyball, it is so worth it. Even if they don't end up playing collegiately, it is so worth it. Now, something to remember about club volleyball: just because you pay doesn't mean you play. So there are some girls that may not touch the court, and you'll typically have a team of 10 girls. And from my experience and what I've seen in our club is the girls who show up to practice, the ones that put the work in consistently, the ones that are coachable and moldable, those are the ones that will get the most playing time. The girls that are inconsistent with showing up to practice, don't really care for it as much, or aren't as dedicated, the ones who go out on the court and they don't put any effort in, those are the ones I typically see don't get a lot of playing time. Now, this is not going to be true for every club, because there are still clubs and there are still places where you will see the coaches play favorites. That is absolutely a reality. So doing your research beforehand, like I mentioned, becoming a practice player or going to these camps will help you understand what kind of dynamics are in that club and what the coach really stands for and what they're passionate about. That way you can get to determine how they're going to treat your kid if they are part of that club. But hard work absolutely does matter in a club environment, and that is something that we are very happy for. In conclusion, our first year of actually playing travel club was great. We enjoyed it very much. It was absolutely worth it. Although we did not make the high school team, we learned lots during our club season. If you were considering allowing your child to join a club or play club, please keep in mind that the tryouts typically take place in June, July time frame for the clubs, but the season doesn't start until around, I think, October, November. So tryouts do begin pretty early on to lock in the players. I think they're not even allowed to start practicing until September. Now, I could be wrong, but something around that. So if you are looking to have your child try out for a team, make sure that you're looking around that June, July time frame, because that's when they'll post their tryout dates. Tryout fees do apply for some of the clubs. You'll pay like $50 or so in order for your daughter to try out. It's always good to either write the position down that they know they want to go for, or keep them open so that the coaches can kind of decide what position they feel like they're going to be a best fit for. So we'll see you guys again for 11th grade.